thought I'd do. I ain't got a pen, but
Good morning, boys. What a day of football yesterday with the FA Cup, with the ups and downs of the Premiership. Thank you for doing last week, boys, while I was at a very expensive funeral in Ipswich. Good morning, Robert. You all right?
Yeah, morning, mate. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning.
Well, I've got to tell you guys, I think something happened yesterday. Like, when you just get them games, like when Jimmy Glass scored for Carlisle and he kept Carlisle in the league, didn't he? I was watching the York Rochdale game, and 95 minutes, Rochdale scores. They're up. You know what I mean? Literally, like I think it was about 5 minutes. Like where all this time comes from, I don't know. York City scores, and obviously they go up from the National League into the league. They ended up with 114 goals, 108 points. Rochdale, 106 points. Surely it's wrong when you get that many points that you should not, go into League Two as it was, or any league. Surely the top two have got to go up. What do you think, Charlie?
I mean, yeah, when you get that many points, you certainly would say so, wouldn't you? But I think it's... in some ways it's the harsh reality of football, isn't it? It's kind of why we love football, where a team can just have an absolute unreal season, but still somehow miss out because the team's been slightly better than them. It's great for both clubs. I mean, you do love it. I think it was a few seasons ago, Wrexham got over 100 points, and so did Notts County. And I remember Ryan Reynolds kind of saying, he really hoped Notts County won the playoffs because he was like, they deserved it. So you kind of still feel the same for Rochdale. But as we all know, playoffs don't tend to always go the way of the team that finished second or third.
No, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story, and to be so close, it is harsh, but those are the rules at the beginning of the season. So you do feel for them because they got the points. But as amazing as well, the last game of the season basically decided the league. So for me, I think that's exciting. And that is like a playoff final. And whoever won that game was going up, or the draw helped York, didn't it? So I think it's a great story. But if they just need to, pick themselves up and continue that next year and think, well, we're 20 points ahead of everyone else, we're going to go up.
Yeah, I think it's a travesty, Robbie, that you only got one going up. I mean, for whatever reason, they've got four going down. They've got Brackley, Morecambe, Braintree and Truro. Now, at the beginning of the season, it was rumoured that Morecambe were going to go out of existence. They was asking Tyson Fury to buy the team. There was a consortium of Sikhs that actually bought the team and bought the ground, etc. But then they just put a Sikh lad in who had no experience or anything to run the team. And I think it was always going to be a disaster. League Two up, we've got MK Dons. Now, if ever there was a team that come out of nothing, didn't they? When Wimbledon's ground, was it Player Lane, Wimbledon's ground, when it closed down, they had to move, and the Wimbledon fans went, hold on a minute, this is where our home is. I think most fans, where your first ground is, you want to stay there, don't you? You got it with the Emirates, you got it with West Ham's lot. You don't want to move. But in the end, out of it come MK Dons and AFC Wimbledon. And I'm glad to say that MK Dons have gone up along with Bromley. And Charlie has pulled out a great stat with this one. Tell us the stat, Charlie.
So Bromley have been in existence 134 years. And in 132 of them, they've been playing non-league football.
What a great stat. What a great stat. Yeah, that is a really great stat.
Yeah, well done.
Do you think it's good for these clubs, Robbie? Like, especially MK Dons, because it did cause murders, didn't it, between the Wimbledon fans and the ones that said they would go to MK Dons, and some said Milton Keynes basically that they wouldn't.
It did. It was like the original franchise club, wasn't it? I don't think they should have been allowed to move from that far away, because the club loses its identity, and the fans created their own club, didn't they, from it? And as much as, Wimbledon won the FA Cup and we remember that, but for our fans, there's a lot more to it. So I can understand if that was, I'm slightly worried having American owners thinking they might move the club at some point. So I don't think it should be allowed. It's great for the team that's been promoted. That's not their fault that the club was moved 20 years ago. But the Bromley thing's fantastic. For our fans, that must be amazing.
132 years, you know what I mean? Unbelievable. Right, League One boys, definitely up is Lincoln and Cardiff. We spoke about Lincoln and Cardiff. Charlie's boys up there at university, although Charlie's told me he's always boozing and missing classes. The life of a student, isn't it? Up there, you got to love them, ain't you? Sadly, down have gone Rotherham, Port Vale, and Northampton, which is quite sad when you look at it. You know, I look at the fans, you know, and it's for me, football is all about the fans. I've said it for years. As we're becoming clients now and not fans, I did want to talk a little bit about what's going on with World Cup. Right, Charlie's gone. No. 2 weeks time when everything's finished because you don't want to mix it up. But you know, you see the joy of them York City fans yesterday. First of all, you know, at 95 minutes, the joy of the Rochdale fans. Remember, they're not in these big leagues. These super fans or these, what do I call them? Fans that just tourist fans that go to any game. They're the true fans that follow their clubs inside and out. And that is the working man's game. Unfortunately, the Premier League is going against it. Now, the main thing we wanted to talk about today, really, was go up in the Championship at the moment. Is Coventry gone up? It's looking possibly between Ipswich, Southampton, and Millwall, who's going to go up automatically. But going down, I think one of the biggest travesties ever is Sheffield Wednesday. I feel sad for Oxford because the chairman had promised them a new stand. Now, whether or not they get that stand when they go down, if he don't do it, I think that's so wrong. It's so wrong because the fans are looking for it. And worst of all, I think the team that won the Premier League only 10 years ago, won a cup final, got to a quarter final of the Champions League, you know, got the semi-final of the Euros, is Leicester. Now, when Leicester was going for the Premier League that time, we all thought at the beginning of the season the wheels were going to come off, didn't they? They was going to suss out how Vardy was making these runs from Mahrez and it was one on the left-hand side. And I think they had the worst centre-back pairing I've ever seen. They looked big. They looked cumbersome, didn't they? Was it Huth and was it Morgan? Where's Morgan?
Yeah.
And you would never think that they would be able to do it. But sadly for them, I think all the love they got when it was getting the last 10 games, everyone wanted Leicester to win, didn't they? Literally everyone. I mean, we played them and we were 2-1 up, I think. And I didn't want West Ham to win because I didn't want Tottenham to win it. You know what I mean? I wanted Leicester to win it. Nothing against Tottenham like Robbie, but I wanted Leicester to win it, you know. And so they scored and made it 2-2. And I was jumping about when they scored. I think Vardy broke the consecutive goal-scoring record against Man United when he was up there. And they got all that love. And then the season after, they sacked Ranieri. And all the people that loved and had empathy for Leicester, it all went away, didn't it? You know, you had an owner, King's Power was his company, that put loads and loads and loads and loads of money in the club. He was always in the dressing room. And sadly, as we all know, he got killed in an helicopter crash, as did one of your last owners, Robbie, Matthew Harding, didn't it? And then it just seemed that the son didn't have that power. I looked into why the company didn't have so much money anymore, and they blamed it on COVID. They said when COVID came, the Chinese stopped going to Thailand, and that really affected the money that went into the business, which is King's Power. But I do think for Leicester fans going down, they've gone down 1. They did have a few minus points. They've gone down 2. I actually think they could go down again. I've asked Charlie to do a little bit of research on this. What's your thought? No, you first, Robbie. What's your thought on Leicester? And we'll get Charlie.
I think it's a shame for them. I've got a good friend who's a Leicester fan. I'm going to get him on here. But he said weeks ago, we need to go down and have a complete reset and work our way back up again. So it used to be, he always said it was a well-run club, obviously before the tragedy. So something's not right because when you look at some of those players, I mean, teams will be looking at taking a lot of those players. They're not a terrible bunch. You know, when they played against Millwall going up and nearly won it the other day. So I think it's a shame for any club, to be honest, that goes down. But that's a massive fall from grace.
It is. Charlie, what research have you done, my friend?
Well, let's have a look. So, research, time goes. I mean, it's 10 years on since they actually done the unthinkable, winning the league with 5,000 to 1. which was incredible. Now, 2 years later, they ended up losing their owner in that helicopter crash, which did have a big impact on the club. But I suppose, one of the most unfortunate things for them was the fact that COVID happened in 2020. Now, it kind of halted the airlines. Now, their owners airline travel. So financially, like, the club never really got that investment after that. But needless to say, 2020 and the 2021 season, they narrowly missed Champions League football. Now, one of those, I remember being on the last day because it was Man United played against them away, and whoever won basically got Champions League football. And let's not forget, in 21, they beat Chelsea in the FA Cup. So it weren't like things were kind of plummeted after COVID. It was kind of more, after the 22 season, they finished 8th, but actually got to the Conference League semi-finals. But the next season, Brendan Rodgers said, we kind of need to change our expectations here because of the financial, and, they weren't really getting the investment into the squad. And then, he ended up getting sacked. He actually did say that season that the target for the club was to get 40 points. So he kind of saw what was coming in a way. We'll kind of jump forward to this year. They was 14th in January, but they was only 6 points off the playoffs. So kind of looking at it now, might not have been a good thing to sack that Seth Winters, I think his name was. They did getting a 6-point deduction, which obviously hasn't helped in terms of getting relegated this season. But they got, that deduction came from, they had a 70 million loss from the 24 to 25 season. And that's massive. And, considering they come into the season this year, they had the highest wage bill of the championship this year by a long way. And can you compare that to someone like Coventry, who were 20th, and yet are going into the Premier League next season is massive. I think there was a Fox's Trust, and they issued a statement, I think it was only a few days ago, basically, calling out the club owners because they was like, we as fans have seen this coming and you've not heard us, you've not taken anything on board. And we saw this, and they just kind of don't understand why the owners didn't listen to them, and they kind of want a massive change in ownership, which you don't really blame them for. But yeah, back-to-back relegations. To be fair, the last team that happened to was Luton, which not so long ago. But for me, the big issue is the financial thing. You've got financial experts who are just coming out saying they don't think Leicester can survive this as a club. And I think that's the real worry.
Yeah, but the problem is, Charlie, we go on about different... sorry, let me write this down because you said so many things there. We go on about Leicester's strategy. Yeah? When Ranieri was there and they brought... None of them were big-name players, was it? I remember when Kanté come in and he went to the training ground, one of the groundsmen said, mate, the kids play over there. And he went, no, I've just been signed by Ranieri. Now, Brighton had a plan at that point, right? Because I think a lot of this lands with Rodgers, right? And you'll know my reasons, not a like of that man. But they had the Brighton model where they would bring players through, they would bring them through for small amounts of money. And then at the end of the season, it doesn't matter how they played or what they did, they would sell that player to cover them for the season. You know what I mean? And then when Rodgers come on, they stopped doing that. And sorry, the dad obviously died. I can't remember the name of the son. His name's about 35 letters, isn't it? But and they changed that model. And it's when you change the model of how you play. It doesn't matter with Brighton at the moment. Brighton are going for Europe. But at the end of the season, if someone wants to buy them players, probably Chelsea, like they will sell that player because that'll make up to it. Now, the Brighton owner, I think they're about 400 million in debt to him. Brighton as they are, but Tony Bloom, I think his name is, won his money from playing poker, believe it or not. He said to him, "Look, I don't want that money back yet. I want it bit by bit by bit. It's just a loan, but it's my money." And I think that is where they went wrong. And Rodgers, instead of what Ranieri was doing, bringing players in, let's face it, really, had any of us really thought of hearing from, knew about Chilwell, knew about Kanté, knew about Mahrez, knew about the goalkeeper. I mean, did you actually rate Kasper Schmeichel? But they reckon he was one of the biggest influences ever on the dressing room. Did you rate him, Robbie, Kasper Schmeichel?
Well, he did. Well, I think it was always going to be hard for him with his surname, to be honest. But I thought he did well for them. He looked a big game player for them. They won the title, they won a cup, and it's a big part of that. I moan about goalkeepers, or our goalkeeper anyway, every week. So I think it's a big part of their success, I think, was down to him.
Yeah, I agree, Charlie, but he's just the characters. I keep going on about it every week. You need someone in that dressing room. Robbie, we're going to talk about Chelsea's issues because I called it a couple of weeks ago. I said, I don't think Rossini makes the end of the season. I thought they would wait to the FA Cup, even if they lost that, but they've jumped. But I do think you need them big characters in the dressing room. And if you've got a disruptive couple, hence the reason Rashford is at Barcelona and Sancho's, God knows where he is. He's still on his 300 grand a week. You just need people that will gel the team together. And I think when they had Schmeichel and a few others went, maybe they kept Vardy 2 seasons long. I don't know, but I think they just went in the wrong direction, as a lot of teams do, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think a lot of their signings particularly worked in a way. I mean, they did buy some good players, but it's things. I think characters matter, but then they've had 7 managers since Brendan Rodgers got sacked, and I mean, as we've seen, like, don't want to bring them up too much, but when you keep getting things wrong, like Spurs have done, they've kept getting things wrong. They've kept buying the wrong players. They've kept, not giving managers enough time. I mean, the whole Van Nistelrooy thing, I didn't want Van Nistelrooy to go there. I thought they was getting relegated no matter what. But there's been, all right, and the Maresca one, they was unlucky because he got them promoted, and then Chelsea was like, well, we'll take it, Maresca. So I kind of feel from in that aspect, but when you keep changing the manager so much, which you've done this year, they sacked that Seth Wenters. It took them like almost a month to kind of replace him. And when you're struggling that much, you can't really do that. The decisions they've made at the top, I think, regardless of how many characters you've had, they was always going to go this way.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think they could go down again if they don't sort it out? And like say, whether new owners coming in, I mean, who's going to come in that division?
It's the financial side of it. It's like I say, Luton have back-to-back relegations. I think not that long ago, Sunderland did the same. They had back-to-back. But it's the financial side. When you listen to kind of all these financial experts talk about Leicester, they're like, it's really worrying. As a club, they might not even exist. So it's a big worry for them. And I feel sorry for the fans because, like they said, they saw it coming and they weren't listened to. As like most fans for most clubs, they don't get listened to.
No, I agree, Charlie. I think everything you've both said is absolutely spot on. But yet again, you remember them fans a couple of years ago? I don't know what it was. It was like paper things all left on the chair, and you could hear that clacking noise when they was on. It's wrong. Speaking about the financial implications, I didn't want to talk about this, but we will. Karen Brady jumped ship this week from West Ham, which seems very strange with 4 games to go. It makes no sense at all. There's rumours coming out about something linked to a women's charity, which we had a white flag, which she was involved in, which was money. Kretinsky has bought David Gold died, and he left 25% of his shares. Sullivan's on 38. Kretinsky was on 37. So anyway, the Golds have agreed to sell Kretinsky 11% to make him co-owners with David Sullivan. This makes no sense to me at this time of the year. Why on earth, whether he said, look, if we go down, if I buy the shares now, let's say an hypothetical figure at £1,000 a share, but if we go down, I'm going to give you 100 a share. Whether some people have jumped or not, I don't know. But I think there's some dirt to come out about West Ham. And I also think, Charlie, the financial implications, what we're going on about, is going to happen about West Ham. And I think Karen Brady has jumped before she got the blame of it. Have you looked into any of this, Robbie, or did you not know what's gone on?
No, I read the other day that she'd left, and just a few of my friends never liked her there anyway at West Ham. So I don't understand all the figures and stuff. Something's happened, but I think most clubs, even mine, they're all on the brink in a sense. The financial thing is absolutely terrible. It's kind of, when you manage it, when you own a club, and you've got the money to like the guys at City, like Abramovich did, even the guy at Brighton to an extent, It's like, it's okay, this is my money. But when people have the club and it's not their money, or they're arguing, who knows what goes on in the background. But the whole financial thing is probably going to destroy a lot of clubs.
Well, you're right, Robbie. You know, the PSR, I've got a good mate of mine, Stu. We talk every day and we argue. He goes, it should go out, the fair play rule. I think it brings a bit more fairness to the league. You're allowed to use 35 million a year over 3 years, going up to 105 million. You don't take in the women's, you don't take in the infrastructure, and you don't take in the youth, but the rest of it comes into it. And I think I told you about a 500 million loan that your guys have taken out off with 10% interest on it, which nothing has been paid back over the last 4 or 5 years. It's got to be paid back, your one, by 2033. You've got 7 years, and if you don't pay it back, instead of that fight, at the moment it's adding 50 million every year, yeah, because it's 10% interest. If you don't, you'll end up having a billion pound debt you've got to find by 2033. Guys, I don't want to go off into the finances, because I keep saying about doing this one with the American one. People go to me, oh, that's boring, mate. We love what you do. Talk about loads of things. There's a couple of things I want to get onto before we get onto the circus that is the Chelsea managerial system. I mean, Tottenham's funny, Robbie, but God knows not. Yes or no? I watched the Man City Ireland game last week. They was both pushing their heads. It was a real old, for me, centre half, centre forward tussle the whole game. You know, they was both holding, pulling, and top. But then at some point there was a little bit of a flashpoint. Ireland and Gabriel touched heads, and then Gabriel pushed his face right down. Lucky for him, I think, that Ireland didn't go down. For me, it was a bang sending off. Charlie, bang sending off, yes or no?
If it had made contact, yeah. And I think that's why
he rubbed his head down his head. No.
If you look, he come away and then he went back and pretty much missed Ireland. But I think if it had made full-on contact, it'd have been a sending off. I think it was the fact that he missed it was why they didn't send him off. But in today's game, I do think it's classed as a sending off.
Listen, Martinez got called the week before and nearly trying to pull. He didn't even really. He went to pull someone's ear, but his hand slid off and he got sent off. How can he be sent off and Gabriel ain't?
Yeah, I don't get it. Again, it's people's interpretation of the rules. I was surprised when I see it. I thought, oh, he's gone, and I was really shocked that he stayed on the field. I think they done it because they didn't want it being a talking point after the game, in a way.
Yeah, Charlie, it doesn't matter what you want, whether you're someone at the top or someone at the bottom. I thought, as a West Ham fan, Everton should have got a penalty yesterday. I think it was a bang penalty. Why they didn't give it, I'll never know. But you want consistency. So when you go out, you say to your players, look, you're going to get away with this in the box. But you're not going to get away with this. I mean, years ago, they used to pull the two captains in the refs room and go, listen, boys, this is how I want the game today. I'll let it flow. I'm not going to let it flow. I'm going to blow up. Love or hate referees. The referees have got their own way of reffing. But you want consistency. There are going to be mistakes made. And I think he should have been sent off. Robbie?
I think it was a stonewall red card. Whether 100%. He catches him properly or not, the intent was there. If you throw a punch at someone and miss, you still tried to punch him. I think he's a lucky boy that Haaland didn't do what most players would do and roll over on the floor for half an hour holding his nose, crying. Because if he'd have gone down, Haaland, he'd have been off. Like, and they wouldn't have been able, VAR wouldn't have overturned it. You know, he's not really hurt. I watch boxing. It's nothing like that. He got lucky there because also that would have affected the last few games for Arsenal. If he had a 3-match ban, he's the centre of their defence, they could have had problems. So I think Haaland's let him off the hook there. But I've got to give Haaland, we moan a lot, give him credit for standing up.
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell you, when I was away, I went away last week and I watched the Bayern Madrid game, which I thought was one of the best games of the season. And at one point, one of the Bayern players goes down. And even Harry Kane, right? And you know me, I don't like players holding up cards down there. And they're all moaning at the referee. And then with that, the Madrid player got sent off. All the Bayern players started clapping. Do we really want that in football, Robbie? Do we?
I think it's quite sad. It's a culture, isn't it, of, well, if we get a player sent off, we've got a chance of winning. And I think it's sad. But it's something in their training. I think it was Bobby Robson years ago when he went to Barcelona, took a training session when he arrived. And then the players went back out and they went, we go out and start practicing diving, falling over. And he was shocked. so that's a cultural thing. I'm not blaming foreigners for it. It's irrelevant. All players do it. And that's why I think Haaland deserves credit for the other day.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you. Charlie, do you think it's wrong that they keep going cards and clap their hands when someone gets sent off?
Because it's all part of fair play, isn't it, and stuff. I do think it was a foreign thing that's kind of really come into it now, but it's almost part of the game, really. But yeah, I don't get the whole standing around the referee. Why you've got to have 10, 12, because it's not going to change his decision. It's like when a player gets sent off and that you have other players arguing with the ref. What are you arguing with him for? He's not going to sit there. He's not going to stand there and go, "Oh, actually, you've made a good point. I'll bring him back on." Then is he? You can, but well, no, he's off. That's it. Like, get on with the game. Yeah, it's not part of the game I like. But yeah.
No, I actually, a couple of years ago, they did say that only the captain could speak to him, didn't they? Because, I mean, do you remember when Arsenal years ago, they practiced it. They knew it. They would all surround the ref. They would all pressure him. I mean, all the Wimbledon players, because they was like really dirty players, should we say, they used to get the referee's name. And they'd walk in the morning, walk in the ref's room. "Hello, Joe. How are you, Joe? How's the wife?" They'd know his wife's name. They'd know his kid's name. But with the Arsenal players that time, they did it on purpose. Tony Adams, he did a podcast. We did it on purpose. We all surrounded him. We all put loads of pressure on him. It's wrong. Bit like rugby. Get the captain. If anyone else goes up and say, book them. And that keeps them away. Guys, before we do get to Chelsea, I thought it was a fantastic FA Cup semi-final yesterday. I thought it really was, with Southampton and Man City. And I thought Southampton were going to do a 1976. They played brilliant football. If any team wants to know how to defend in it on the break, they did it. They went into the game 20 runs unbeaten. And when they went in, the guy got a great goal. Back to the box, turned round, smashed it, top corner. I thought it was a great goal. Unluckily for them, Man City got a deflection. And then, yet again, really, they stopped that pushing, whether they ran out of puff, but they couldn't go out and meet them on the edge of the area. And it was a good goal, top left-hand corner. Did you enjoy the semi-final, Charlie?
I did. I was singing "When the Saints Go Marching In" all for about 2 minutes. And then it came crumbling down, unfortunately. But they played really well. You've got to give them massive credit. They was unlucky. It was unfortunate they came up against City. I think if they'd have come up against Chelsea at the moment or Leeds, I think we could be sitting here talking about Southampton in the cup final.
100%. 100%. Robbie, did you watch it?
I didn't watch it. We were at a barbecue yesterday. I spent most of it looking at live score, checking out the West Ham and the Wolves game. That was it. So I didn't watch it. Good luck.
I wonder why, Robbie.
Yeah, it was important. But I didn't watch it.
I went in a boozer and they had we had to meet someone basically, and then the guy he was a West Ham fan. He said, "I want to watch the game." But they had a big screen, and down the bottom they had Liverpool Palace on, and on one screen they had Spurs Wolves, and then on the other screen they had West Ham. I can't remember we playing West Ham Everton. I went into that game telling everyone I would be happy with a point. I really couldn't see us, Everton. I think they should have beat Liverpool the week before, and I think they got a great chance for Europe. We started off okay, keeping clean sheets. That Diassi from Chelsea, Robbie, he has transformed the West Ham defence. Apparently, if they stay up, he said he'll stay. If he don't, he's going. I think even if they go down, West Ham should break the bank, pay him what he wants, and keep him in as captain. They should have had a penalty, as I said to you. I think they should. Don't ask me what happened. Fernandes gets his hand round a player, and then he pushes the ball out with his hand. And even as a West Ham fan, for me, that was a bang penalty. Apparently, they're saying he went to put his arm round the player, and as he did, he hit the ball accidental. Listen, it didn't matter. They scored, and then he brought Callum Wilson on, and Bowen headed it back across the goal, and Wilson won to get 2-1. Tottenham. Mate, I can't tell you the amount of people in that pub, Millwall fans, Liverpool fans. They were like you. Everyone wants Tottenham to lose. I don't understand what people don't like. I had Millwall fan jumping up next to me, right? He said, "We hate West Ham, but I hate Tottenham more." And I thought, what is this thing with Tottenham? Why do people want Tottenham to go down? I spoke to an Arsenal fan. He said, "I would rather lose the title and Tottenham go down." And when I spoke to a Tottenham fan, they said, "I'd rather go down then Arsenal win the title. What is it with this Tottenham hatred that seems to be around this season, Robbie? Listen, Robbie, I'm only giving you about 10 minutes on this.
I don't think we've got enough time to go through it. It's just, there's your reaction. My Leicester mate wants them to go down. There's another one. It's not just Chelsea is obviously a rival. It stemmed from the League Cup in the 60s and that. And since then, but yeah, it's, I don't know. Most teams, I mean, for a Millwall fan to say it, I mean, I'm quite amazed actually, to be honest, because you think they'd want West Ham dead and buried. Maybe it's a cultural thing now. Who knows? But let's hope it comes true. That's all I can do.
Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of fans don't like Tottenham because they don't understand why Tottenham are considered a big club. They're like, they don't win much trophies. They're a bit entitled. We don't understand. I think that, going off what I kind of read off social media and other things like that, I think, again, it's the story, isn't it? It's the story of, one of the big six actually getting relegated. And I think that's another reason why fans kind of want it. And like going into yesterday, those Wolves fans would have been desperate for Wolves to win because they would have got one over. Fans seem to love, even when you're dead and buried, if you can bring someone else down with you, they tend to love it. And I thought they was quite lucky in a way, Tottenham yesterday. We speak about financials and like 275 million, that's a loss. They get if they go down. We talk about clubs in bad situations. For Tottenham, it's almost unthinkable, but it's starting to look that way.
It is. Charlie, what did you say their season ticket was compared to Middlesbrough's?
I think their dearest season ticket. I think they've got the second dearest season ticket in the Premier League, which I think is about 2,200. I think something like that.
What's that?
Which is great. Yeah. Who's going to pay that to go watch them in Lincoln next year? Aren't they? They're not, are they?
A friend of mine just renewed his Leeds United one. He's had a season ticket for 43 years. He's going today, Dave, and he's just paid just under 700 for his next year's prime seats, which is really, really good.
Clubs is like 600-700, I think, their season ticket and stuff. So we compare that to Tottenham, but Tottenham can't charge fans that next year if they go down. It'd be impossible. Their match day revenue is going to drop by about 40% and stuff like that. So they're not going to turn around and go, well, yeah, you're still going to have to pay over $2,000 for a season ticket.
Yeah, I agree. I watched a podcast yesterday. Some guy just went out on the streets talking to Tottenham fans. And he went, if you go down, do you consider yourself still one of the big six? You mentioned the big six. And I do think you're right, because they was going to go after this Super European League, wherever it was going to be called. And, to a T, every Tottenham fan went, yeah, even though we're down in the second, we're still one of the big six. And I think to myself, you know what you're talking about, mate. If you go down, how can you sit yourself one of the big six? But it's going to be a funny running. 4 games to go. I mean, Villa next for Tottenham, Brentford next for West Ham, both teams away. I sort of think yesterday's win for both teams is, in a strange way, has brought Leeds and Forest still back into it again, because I thought 36, 37 points would be enough this year. And now I don't think it will be.
I think if West Ham and Tottenham had ended up drawing, I think it would have got Forest out of it. I mean, Forest beating Sunderland 5-0, I think was fantastic then. The only thing I think about Forest is they've got Aston Villa in the Europa League semi-finals, and sandwiched in between that, they've got an away game to Chelsea, who are now desperate for points, trying to even get a European place. So I do think it kind of keeps Forest into it, but I think Leeds have just done enough.
Yeah, I agree. Now, you talked about Chelsea there, and which comes on, Robbie's Chelsea mad. Robbie's dad's Chelsea's mad. All his cousins are Chelsea mad. We had Leon the other week, who was Chelsea mad. Seems to be the only people that want to come on here are Chelsea fans at the moment. When I look at Chelsea as they're going at the moment, a bit like Tottenham, how many managers they had this year? Is it 4? West Ham have had 3 different managers this year. I do think all of a sudden, with me, I'm looking at Chelsea and they seem to have lost their identity. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about Fernandes and Cucurella coming out. We now know that all the players had real quite bad nicknames for Rossinior. And when he come in, I never know why he come in. He come from Strasbourg. He hadn't done much really to get that sort of job. It was probably a bit bigger job for him, who are owned by the same Chelsea owners. But I do think what's happened is you've been bought out by a private equity group, and it's split into 3 different sections, the ownership of the Tottenham. And I'll tell you what, Robbie, I think this is a turning point. I think if you don't get Champions League football, I've told you about this big debt coming out that's got to be paid. And all of a sudden it's coming up about a lot of charges, possibly the same amount as Man City going against Chelsea. Could cause you severe problems. Now, Robbie, how many managers have they had since Abramovich taken over Chelsea?
Abramovich, hang on, I'll need a few minutes when I for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, hang on, although that's temporary. 5, 6, 7. That's under Abramovich. 8, 9, 10, or Hudik, does he count twice because Hudik was there? 11, 12, 13 managers, 14 managers under Abramovich. But at the same time on that, the amount of trophies that came with it. So the club under Abramovich, for whether people like it or not, had a system. He built a team that could last. Like when Avram Grant went there after Mourinho left the first time, I don't think he did anything. I think the players did it. I think people like Terry and Drogba and Lampard and Cech managed that team. So he was quick to fire them because he wanted that Champions League, which he eventually got. I was upset like when Ancelotti got the boot. I thought the football was amazing. Even when he got Rafael Benitez in that nobody liked, he still won a trophy with it. But these guys have come in, the Americans, and we had an elite manager. It just won the Champions League, survived all this sanctions and everything else with it, won the Champions League, and they booted him because they knew better, replaced him with basically a glorified PE teacher. They got Lampard back in just to appease the fans, which didn't work. And the funny one was Pochettino, which split fans, obviously, because of who he used to manage. I think it just got them going, Pochettino. It got the end of that season. It got them purring, playing good football, all based around Parma and stuff. And then he went because they couldn't agree on stuff. Got Maresca in, who I wasn't a big fan of him, but actually his win rate's almost 60%. And then
Robbie, can I just stop you there, Robbie? Yeah. Look, we're talking about now you're 1.4 billion in debt. Yeah, forget the managers and everything else. I think someone like when you had that debt under Abramovich, it weren't a debt because he loved the team. You know what I mean? He's you broke him in half. He was Chelsea through and through, and I still think personally he's still got something to do with the club. How are you going to get out of all these debts, Robbie? How?
Well, their idea is, and this is why I don't like it, is they would just sell anyone that's going to make them a pure profit. And they've deliberately, in my opinion, brought so many young players to be like, we spoke about Leicester earlier, Brighton. I think that's their logic, which if you want to be a big club, that's not how they work. You keep these players and you add to it and you win trophies, get bigger sponsorships, more TV money. But they would tomorrow, these guys, in my opinion, they fiddled the books. Must be like a money laundering scheme, selling the hotel, selling the women's team. So I don't know what their plan is, but they seem to think they know best, and I don't agree with it. And
Robbie, with the private equity firms, it's not going to be like Abramovich. They're going to want their money back with returns.
Exactly.
So this has all got to be paid back, and that's the worrying. I've said it for years. At some point, we will lose a massive club. Do I think we'll lose Chelsea completely? We won't. But I'm telling you, at some point, we will lose someone. Did you agree with the signing of Rossini, Robbie?
No, I couldn't understand for the life of me why you take a manager who's got no experience in the Premier League, no experience at a big club with big players, with a dressing room, with young players. Didn't make any sense to me at all in the first place. He was out of his depth. Felt sorry for him because he clearly couldn't. When you manage people, you've got to be able to walk in on that first day and say, right, lads, I'm the boss. And I don't think he ever had that about him. The same with Potter, to be honest, as well. I don't think he had that. Tuchel walks in the room, you're all going to stop, and you're going to start listening to him. And I just don't think he had a chance, especially with young players. I teach kids. I know what it's like to try and get a group of them to keep still. So
problem is, Robbie, you signed so many young players on 5 to 8 years to get over the PSR rules. It's now been changed, by the way. You can only do that. The Premier League have changed it to 5. But then you're stuck with the rubbish ones, or you've still got to pay half their money. I mean, I was looking at an interview with Calvin Phillips yesterday. He went, "Oh, why'd you go to Ipswich?" Well, I went to Ipswich, because he's on the most money anywhere, and Ipswich are paying half his money, and Man City are still paying the rest of his money, And that's what happened when you had bad buys. Who was the Ukrainian lad you brought in? A record signing once. Blonde there, I can't remember his name. What was his name?
Mudryk
was recent, yeah.
5-8 year contracts. Once them on, why would them players go anywhere? We had it with Sancho. Sancho come down to you. Chelsea wanted to sign him, but they went, "We're not giving you 300 grand because our biggest earner is Reece James." And Sancho went, "If you won't give me the 300 grand, I'll go and sit on the bench somewhere else and still pick up the 300 grand from Man United." It's all about, I remember someone telling me about that Todd Bowley. He went in the dressing room half time and went, "The team's playing so bad, can we make 10 substitutions?" He's got into a game even understanding the basic rules of football anywhere in the world. Do you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. And at the moment, Robbie, financially, I fear for you. I think as a West Ham fan, I'm really glad they got rid of Rossi. I don't know much about this McFarlane who's come in, but I always, hopefully it makes a change and you beat Tottenham. Charlie, what is your thoughts on Chelsea? Or do you think you're in as bad a situation financially and like with the owners, they just don't really understand the British football?
No, I mean, I've heard some stories about that Todd Bowley. I think when Chelsea first got taken over, he had to be told that he was talking about, but we'll have Champions League football next year, and someone had to politely go over and tell him, "No, you've got to finish in the top 4 to get Champions League football." So you do hear stories about him. I think with the financial side, I think the likes of United and Chelsea, Arsenal, City, I think if they do get in big financial trouble, there's always somehow there's a way out of it. Right, with the Glazers, they went and put it up for sale, I think, and kind of supposedly, and then that we kind of got in with him, Radcliffe. I think somehow Chelsea would get out of it. I think the thing is with Chelsea, though, I mean, I don't understand their transfer policy at all. So many times you'd hear about a player who's virtually about to sign for someone else, and then all of a sudden Chelsea come in, and then he's within 24 hours, he's then a Chelsea player. They've spent way too much money on it. The squad is massively unbalanced. They went and bought 8 goalkeepers, and somehow Sanchez is still the best they've got. It does look a little bit all over the place. But the thing is with Chelsea, I mean, it's always something I've kind of begrudgingly admired about them. No matter what bad their seasons are gone, somehow they still end up winning a trophy. I mean, it won't surprise me today if they go and beat Leeds, and then now they've sat Rosina and stuff. They're in a one-off game, somehow they'll end up beating City. It's just like Chelsea to go and do something like that. But when you consider like the club at the start of the year won that Club World Cup, regardless of whether you think it's like that, it's gone from bad to worse. I don't understand the Rosina thing. They took a gamble and it backfired massively.
I understand. I mean, it's like the Tottenham with his 2-door, didn't it? We call him 2 doors, Tudor, whatever you want to call him, revolving door. They're bringing in people. When you're a big club, I mean, I've looked at the list and they're talking about the Bournemouth manager. They're even talking about Mourinho. I don't think Fabregas comes. They're saying they might want him, but I don't think he leaves Como. They've got European football next year. I mean, who do you bring in? But, with me, with Chelsea is, I had a bet on Chelsea to win the Premier League this year. When they won that World Club Championship, I thought they bought PSG. That's my bet to win the Prem with Chelsea this year. I sat with Robbie's dad. I watched him win the conference at a canter. They were losing 1-0 at half-time. They brought Palmer in the middle, and he took over, and they won it 4-1, I think, Robbie, weren't it? When they beat the conference. Wow. Robbie, I think you're going to be lucky to get in the conference this year. Only will help you if Villa end up going and winning the Europe Europa League this year.
I'll be honest, I think the struggle. Part of me feels, although the money part of me feels it's probably best not to be in Europe next year and actually rebuild and get a squad working with whoever they decide to get in. It's helped Man United this year. Obviously, they've taken a financial hit, but they've managed to get back, like Charlie said a few weeks ago, get back to basics, and they've got Champions League football next year, so they can start making plans. I think at best we We won't get in the Champions League. That's unless something crazy happens. I can't see that, to be honest. I think they'll go all out for the FA Cup because they realise that is a chance that you get in the Europa League. You get in for that, so it's a little bit better than the conference money-wise. But I think the struggle, I think it'd be best off without it. But then you've got the thing of players staying or not. And that's where my thing with these Americans, they'll go, okay, so we'll sell you. Because they don't actually...
Yeah, I agree. You let 45 players go before the start of this season. Do you know, Robbie, I think it all depends on the split in the dressing room. It's come out that there's quite a lot of splits in the dressing room. Some of them tried to give him a go, Rosinha. Others was really close to Maresca. They said they had an identity. They liked him there. They all liked him. And I think if it's split, then I think you lose today. I think if that McFarlane, what's he had? 4 or 5 days, Robbie, to try and make a team from what's there?
He did take a game earlier in the season. He drew with City and then lost to Arsenal before they got Rosinha in. And the under-21 coach, statistics and stuff. It's how, I don't know what his relationship is like with the players, obviously. And I'm hoping it's a good one and they'll at least turn up for him and have a go. Because that Brighton game, I think I could have played in that.
Goalkeeper or centre half. Robbie, how about getting Mickey Droy back?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, he could play now at 75 years old, be better than that defence the other day. You'd be better.
Who are you going for, Robbie? You or Leeds then? In this?
I'm going for Chelsea. I think it'll be tight, actually. I think that might even go extra time or penalties. Because I think...
Sorry, Robbie. Carry on, Robbie.
I just think Leeds are a bit... I think they're safe, Leeds, so I think they'll play with a bit more freedom and just go for it. And McFarlane's got Chelsea, and we've been told to stop the rot. And we ain't scored for 5 games. So I can see that going extra time and penalties, but hopefully we'll get through it.
Yeah, there's a rumour going around he got 24 million because he was on a 4 million 6-year contract. Yeah. Now he got 4 million. I looked into it this morning. He got 4. But 4 million, how many games did he have? About 20 games?
23.
Yeah, 4 million.
Crazy,
20. How bad is that? Charlie, who'd you go for today?
It will just be like Chelsea to still qualify for a final. It's just what they do. But I don't think Leeds are going to make it easy. I'll go to sound like a 2-2. And I think it'll go extra time penalties. But I think Chelsea will probably do it.
Yeah, it's strange to me because I think if Leeds would have known they're safe, they might have gone all out with the FA Cup. Not been in it for how many years is it? 60 odd years, 50 years. I think now they, like you say, West Ham and Tottenham won. I think. Will they keep anyone off? I hope not, because I hope it goes for a good game. I've said it a million times before. For the fans, it's a day out, isn't it? And it's you got this day out, and then you possibly got the date with a Wembley final. But I can just see Leeds nicking it. I really can. They're in a good run of form. They've suddenly started scoring goals. They didn't score for over 420 minutes, and then the last cut of the game, they've banged away plenty of goals. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. If I've never said it at the beginning, I thank you so much for last week, keeping it there. Robbie, I'll tell you something, mate. Ever since you've been laughing about our friends from North London, it's suddenly imploded a little bit your end, isn't it?
It has, but, I suppose to give them their due, they were out the relegation zone for 3 minutes yesterday. So, they obviously had a good time for 3 minutes. And I do want to, while we're here, because my cousin's going today. I got him a ticket. Him and his boys are going to the semi-final. So I hope they end the day happy.
Yeah. Charlie, any more comments?
What about Tottenham? No. I think with Leeds, their next league game is Burnley at home. And I think they'll get 3 points. And that'll put them on 43. So I think Leeds are out of this relegation thing. Just hoping for it. Yeah, I'm hoping for a proper... good cup tie today. That's kind of what I want.
I agree. I must say that I did think Man City would go all out to put loads of goals past Burnley to give them a better goal difference than Arsenal. They didn't. Only won 1-0, but then Arsenal won 1-0 yesterday against Newcastle. Newcastle should have scored in the first couple of minutes. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Yet again, we've rambled on for nearly 80 minutes. If anybody wants to come on a show, please write on. Most people bottle it on the morning of coming on the show. We don't bite. And if you want to write in the comments, please be respectful. Thanks, boys.
All right, have a great afternoon. Cheers.